So I said to Chris one day, I said, I want to have a family in the future. I want to have a business. And he turned around to me and said, you can have all of it and be a world-class bodybuilder. Right now, going into this show, I would say to Chris, like, my confidence is through the roof. Like, I'm just happy. I know I'm going to bring my best, and I'm not even thinking about the competition. I know I can beat Bonak in my head.
Right.
So being able to get out there and show the physique, and the crowd were really responsive. So I think that just made me enjoy it even more and milk the shots.
Welcome back to It's Just Bodybuilding. I'm Scott McNally with Dusty Hanshaw, and we are joined by IFBB Pro Sasan Heirati. What's going on, man?
Nothing much. Thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure being on the show, and I've been very much looking forward to this one.
It is absolutely a pleasure to have you here. And before we get into it, I have to say, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
Nice. Nice. I've heard Ron say that so many times, but I'm never the guy to say it. And of course, don't forget to support the programming. I Am Mutant. You can go to IamMutant.com. Use your code Dusty or Big Ron. Either of those codes will work, even though Ron's not with us today. Ron already left. He's on his way to FIBO. So it is the three of us today, and we're freaking pumped to get Sasan on, because I literally just saw him here in Detroit, Dusty, and it was a freaking incredible show, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. I didn't even know that you're competing in a few days.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm like, oh, so it's good to know that you're rested. You haven't been suffering in any way. You're just relaxed and ready to get this rolling. So,
yeah, I'm fine. I'm suffering a little bit this time, but nothing like I usually do.
Okay.
So with that, I have a little plan here to go way back in time, but I kind of want to start in the current first. Mm-hmm. Get us caught up for those following. I know you've worked yourself. You've worked with Chris. What's going on currently for this prep?
So this prep has been all Chris from. It's been a short prep, to be honest. 10 weeks out from Detroit, I decided to jump in, and the plan was to go with Chris to the Olympia. Last year, the only time I did my own prep was last year was my comeback show after 6 years.
Yeah.
I started the prep with Chris, but halfway through, I just wanted to do my own thing. I think it was the family thing, the routine. I didn't know how I was going to do on stage. It was more, the comeback was more for the coaching and the lifestyle and a little bit of business, traffic, that kind of thing. So my goal wasn't an Olympia qualification. So in that sense, I had a young baby at the time. He was only a few months old. And then my second was 4 years. So I wanted to plan my own time around that schedule and be able to prep and be able to give back to my coaching clients and my family. So I needed to plan ahead a few days at a time, you know, with the food and the just the schedule of cardio and training. So I didn't feel like I could completely 100% give myself up to, even though Chris, he would have accommodated, you know what he's like.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't feel like it was fair to say, Chris, I can't do this today, I've got to do this in 2 days. And it didn't feel natural to do that with Chris. So I did my own for like the last 7 weeks. I over-dieted. came in peeled, but it was flat and it was peaked too early. And peak week wasn't the way it should have been. But it was a good show. It was a great comeback. I had great feedback. I came fourth. I placed fourth to Bonak, Behruz, and Krizo, which wasn't, you know, it wasn't bad. I was happy with that. Mm-hmm. And but moving forward, the idea was just to get back with Chris and get to the Olympia, no matter what I had to do. This is switched off, and it's been probably the best prep I've ever done. It's just been every 2 weeks I'd message Chris and say, like, Chris, this is super easy, and he'd say, let's not jinx it. Even like 4 weeks out, I was like, Chris, I still don't feel like I'm dieting. The cardio was barely, I could probably count on 2 hands how many cardio sessions he made me do the entire prep. Carbs were high. There was no stress. My sleep's been perfect. I think the only time I started to feel the bite was the last, probably from 2 weeks out.
Mm-hmm.
I started to feel like, okay, I'm a little bit hungry now, and I feel a little bit tired, but nothing I couldn't, it was crazy. I'd say to Leanne, like, honestly, I feel absolutely fine. Peak week's the only time I start to feel it. I think when we start to really pull the fluid out and you start to feel empty and brittle. That's the only time. But other than that, it's been an amazing prep. It's short because I was planning on doing Pittsburgh. And then Fuad messaged me at Christmas and said, look, you should think about doing Detroit. It's an early show. It'll be, not easy, but you'll have more of a chance to place. So I thought, well, I'll do Detroit because Pittsburgh's looking to be stacked, which it is now.
Oh, yeah.
It's like an Olympia lineup minus Samson's.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I did Detroit because it was a great prep. We landed it perfectly, and I got to stand next to Bonak, which I think showed a lot of my strengths that I've been working on.
Agreed.
Yeah, so it was the plan wasn't to do another show, but on the way back, I was sat on the plane thinking I feel really fresh. So there's FIBO, and I just want to jump in it. I just want to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah. Right.
And Chris being Chris said, why not? So here we are, 5 days out, about to go again.
When do you head over?
So it's Monday night. I fly Wednesday night. So in 2 days.
Okay.
Yeah, athletes meeting registration is Thursday. I think tanning is Friday, and then the show is a 1-day show on Saturday. So
nice.
Yeah.
Now, I want to kind of take back to last year. First off, the layoff, 6 years. Was that a retirement originally? What was the deal there?
Yeah, it was many reasons. The main one was I was tired of coming second. No, I was relying on sponsors and prize money a little bit too much.
Right.
I didn't have a fallback. So I decided to step back, kind of work on social media, coaching, just something to get onto my own 2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I wanted to start family before it got too late for me and Leanne. So it was an easy decision to just say, right, I need a break. That break quickly turned into, I'm happy now. I think I'm going to retire. You get comfortable.
Right.
And but that it was a 6-year break. I think by year 3, I lived the lifestyle. I still trained. I didn't eat 6 meals. I ate maybe 3 meals a day. I still loved it just as much. I was a bodybuilder. I just didn't get peeled or stupidly heavy.
Right.
Stayed in that middle ground. But the passion and the reasons I did it in the first place started to come back to me.
Right.
Prepping other guys for shows, getting excited for them to get on stage, then watching all the young guys I grew up with climbing the ranks. And I just felt like, okay, am I going to regret this when I'm 60?
Right.
I didn't quite scratch the surface of my potential. So it turned into like, I think I need to get back on stage, even if it's just to say I give it one more go. And if I can get to the Olympia, that would be kind of the seal that I could say, then retire happily afterwards. But yeah, 6 years is a long time, and I wasn't sure what my body was going to do with it, so I had some aches and pains. 39 now, so, but I have seen some aging in certain body parts, and obviously some aches and pains. But as a whole, after speaking to Chris, this is definitely I'm at my best. So for the foreseeable, I'm going to try and keep going, not for too long, but because I want to be around for my kids. 100%. So I reckon, the next year or 2, I'll give it. And then
what did Leanne say when you said the itch was needing to be scratched?
She wasn't 100% happy with it initially. Early on in the break when I started to kind of mention, I don't know if I'm done yet. But I think she saw it in me that I had to do it because otherwise I'd have regrets.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd resent myself. So she saw that in me towards the back end of the 6 years. And also, it helps the business. It helps you stay relevant on social media.
Sure.
And with me, my physique has always helped open opportunities. Every time I get on stage, something opens up, like there's a light bulb moment. And I needed those opportunities to fall into my lap a little bit. So it was kind of a no-brainer. But I've enjoyed it more than ever. I've actually enjoyed being on stage, which I never really used to. I did the preps and I just wanted to get on stage and get off stage and then look at the next goal. Whereas now I'm actually enjoying working with the crowd and enjoying posing a little bit more than I used to. And I just kind of, I'm taking it all in.
I love that.
And I've matured in that sense.
I've kind of got a question that's related to that is, loving, like you did it before, you obviously enjoyed bodybuilding before, you stepped away and you came back and competitively and, you have more age now, right? More wisdom. And I think that as we get that age and wisdom, we gain more appreciation for the things that we have,
100%.
What is it? Like, give me a couple examples of like things that maybe you didn't even expect to be like, oh yeah, I'm back in it and I absolutely love this part of the sport,
So it was probably the part I hated the most. It was show day. I just didn't. I used to be so nervous. I hated just waiting backstage and pumping up, and I didn't like feeling weak and dehydrated. I didn't look at it from look at how I'm looking on stage under these lights. I didn't look at it from all these years of hard work, months of prep, and this polished, conditioned, crazy-looking physique. I'm inside it. I didn't look at it from that point. I just looked at it as I feel like crap. I want to get off stage and I want to eat.
Yeah.
I just didn't, I loved the journey in between those bits. But this time, I remember Spain last year, I was backstage, and then some of the other competitors were saying hi to me and saying, oh, we're a fan. Guys I was on stage with in my class, they took pictures with me, and that started to make me feel, okay, so this is definitely, I never looked at it as it was my dream job. Mm-hmm. So it hit me last year in Spain that I am literally doing something that a lot of guys would love to do. A lot of guys would love my genetics, my sponsors, be able to just get on a plane, go to another country and compete for possible prize money. All these other things were like all of a sudden lit up in front of me. And speaking to Bonac, speaking to like Behruz last year, and I thought, right, I'm going to be the pro bodybuilder now. I want to go out there and put on a show, and I want to show my physique off. And that started to get me pumped. I remember we did our individuals, and I just came off stage, and I really enjoyed it. The crowd were cheering. It's like I was seeing and hearing things I never used to see and hear back in, 15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
Probably because I had these blinkers on that I just wanted to create this physique, get my prize money, and get off stage. So, and you're missing half the fun there, because you realize that you've created a physique that is worth showing off on stage, and that got me really pumped, and it made me proud of being able to show my hard work, decades of hard work. So it's kind of just like all came together,
As you say that, I'm thinking about your routine from Detroit. And I shot video of it. Maybe in the post-production, I should overlay that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people have seen it. Man, it was a beautiful routine. And the poses that you hit, like it wasn't just like your standard, here's a most muscular, hand to the ear, here's a most muscular. Yeah. Like Dusty, he had some really good like twisting shots, and here's a back shot, and here's this other thing. Like it was really well put together, man. And I could tell that you had a passion for that routine. And I don't know if you could hear the audience from up there, but there was a lot of people that were behind you at that show too.
I did. And I'm not really the guy who can work the crowd easy. I'm quite shy.
Okay.
I don't see that. I never used to see that or hear the crowd, like I said. But and that routine, I know it's not a Kai Green, but it's also not a robotic one. It's kind of in the middle. I like watching Roden, Sean Ray, those guys who have the slow transitions.
Yeah.
I've had this routine as like a template from day one. But I never used to do it slow enough. I never used to enjoy hitting the shots. Whereas now I went on stage, and because I was in such a good condition, every time I hit a pose, I could hear the crowd. So that made me slow it down even more and really hit the poses. And since then, I've been working on them because some of my twisting stuff, I wasn't quite hitting it. So the next one will be better.
Okay.
But yeah, it's funny because I had this kind of routine for my pro card win back in 2015. But I every time I get on stage, I'll tweak it. I'll add something in. I'll take something out. But I think because I'm much more confident right now, going into the show, I would say to Chris, like, my confidence is through the roof. Like, I'm just happy. I know I'm going to bring my best, and I'm not even thinking about the competition. I know I can beat Bonac in my head.
Right.
So being able to get out there and show the physique, and the crowd were really responsive. So I think that just made me enjoy it even more, and milk the shots and use the music to just, it was fun.
In hindsight,
that's cool.
Now that you've got the backing of a career that you've put together in a business, do you think that that's helped allow you to enjoy it? Because in the past, like you were saying, you needed that prize money.
Good point.
It had to happen to cement to live, but also just to, like, that decided success or failure was, did you make enough money to make it worth it? To whereas now, obviously, we all could take a little extra chunk of change here or there, but your life doesn't change no matter what. I mean, 10 grand, 20 grand is not going to change your life. Obviously, it's enhancing, but it's not paying your mortgage now. Have you found that allows you also to relax and be a little more present because you're not thinking like, okay, this will pay the bills or this will make sure that, our kids are handled?
1,000%, yes, 100%. It's like back in, if I rewind to 2017, I did 2 shows back to back. I only placed in one of them, so I came back in a negative $4,000. Right. So that's a hard pill to swallow when you haven't got 100% secure income or good money flowing in. That's enough to kind of say, what's the point? Even though you're coming second, you're almost making it to the Olympia. The numbers weren't making me feel, safe or secure when I'm coming back home. And I'm thinking, so that's one of the things that made me a little bit bitter towards, it made me think I should have beaten that guy. And, right. He had no hamstrings and he had no calves. Why is he beat? I was questioning stuff that I should have just kind of put behind me and said, right, we'll come back better.
Right.
Because there was this cash obstacle in the way, it stopped me from being confident and being able to progress. Yeah. And finally, it made me just stop altogether so I could focus on the security of money. But whereas now, going into a show knowing that, okay, if I place first or last, I'm coming home the same. I'm no worse off. I'm no better off, but I'm no worse off, and I can just continue doing what I'm doing. And because I'm already enjoying the training again and the competing side of things, I think that just enhances, it brings stress levels down. And when I'm happy and chilled, I always perform better in the gym. And, it all flows a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's something, and I know you coach a lot of guys now, so I'm assuming you hammer a lot of these same things home, but that's something I press on to guys coming up, no matter how good they are, is A, what are you going to fall back on? But B, what is left when you're done? Like you said, you win this week, obviously that's great, but the journey and the pictures and the fans and eventually the clients that come from it are they're more lucrative than the prize. You know what I mean? and using your own preps and things as a way to build that business is always the way that I saw it. I see a lot of guys who are great pros, who are getting the checks consistently, and I still can't help but think in my back of my mind, you have all this time. Why aren't you creating something to build off of? You know, Scott, we go way back. I actually gave Sas the not so subtle nudge to hire Chris.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day.
Okay.
Well,
Like what are we talking? What's back in the day?
Give that breakdown, Sas.
right. So I used to follow Dusty when he was with iForce. He was on YouTube doing cooking videos. And
He had a mohawk at the time, I bet, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He did. And Chris prepped him at the time.
Yeah.
And I was a big fan of Chris. So anytime I found something to do with Chris, because I was learning, I would fixate on it to find information about how Chris's mind worked. So, and then Dusty came up. I think he just did the Nationals, and then there were all these cooking with Dusty videos and training. So I just started watching it, and I was like, hang on a minute, you can make your green beans taste pretty good in prep. And I was just like, I was hooked on all his videos, and Chris would do his high days, and Dusty would go into it, and I was a big fan straight away. And then it was Body Power 2014.
Okay.
2014, me and Leanne, we queued up to meet Dusty. And, I did the whole, I'm a big fan, and I've just competed. And then Dusty said, okay, let's have a look at your pictures. And I showed him my pictures, and he was like, all right, are you working with anyone? He basically said, you've got the potential to go pro. Let me speak to Chris, and I'll Facebook message you. And he messaged me later, or the next day, or a few days later. He said, send me some pictures. I'm going to send them to Chris. And he sent them to Chris, and then he wrote back and said, here's his email. Give him an email. He'll work with you. And I was just like, I was mind blown. I'd spent years just looking up Chris's Q&As on bodybuilding.com, and then all of a sudden, Dusty, who I'm a fan of, has put me in touch with Chris Aceto, and I was just like, is this real? So I spoke with Chris, and he said, yeah, let's get it started. And I think I borrowed the money off my dad at the time because I didn't have anything. I was like, Dad, I need this, and I need to work with Chris. He's going to make me pro. And then that was it. The rest, I've done 11 years with Chris, minus those 7 weeks in Spain. And I think it tells a lot about Chris, because I don't think Dusty ever left him.
Oh no.
So it's just, so I always thank Dusty, whether it's in reality or in my head. I've always, it's the start of my career.
The different story for me, Scott, was when I opened the photos and went, oh shit! So this is what a real bodybuilder looks like. If Chris can do this with me, I can't even imagine what he can do with this guy.
No, I could imagine what you saw, man. Because Sas has you have incredible shape. Like even if you didn't have the size you have now, like I could imagine with less size, it'd be like, oh yeah, this guy's got something. You've just got really round muscle, no matter how you slice it.
Well, and you could tell back in the day, Scott. As soon as I looked at the pictures, my brain went sliced, over dieted.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, this is a guy that's not afraid to work.
Yep.
But he just needs someone actually to tap the brakes on him a little bit, which is what Chris does so well. You're pushing forward, and then all of a sudden, your brain, you're like, oh, I better deplete a little harder. Yeah. And Chris is like, go eat a cheeseburger, and you're, exactly. Don't do cardio for the next week. And you're just like, this is, I don't know about this. And it never ceases to amaze because, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Sas, is like, I've always said there's two people that prep themselves for a show if they're less than successful. It's the guy who is so worried about size that he doesn't get hard enough.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Or the guy who is so obsessed with being shredded that he goes too far.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
That's where you kind of fell into the play. It's like, it's never enough one way or the other. If you're one of those two guys, and you need somebody that comes in that you can trust 100%. And with obviously Chris's experience and the way he handles things, I was like, I plugged these two in. I almost felt bad. Like I wanted to like send a notice out to all the guys getting ready for the same show. I'm like, hey, y'all might want to stay home on this one. It's not going to be a good day for you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Chris is Chris is still to this prep. 11 years on, he's still surprised me this prep.
Really?
Yeah, like he would just feed me. He would do things with supplements that I'm like, that you've never done this before. But the thing with Chris is that the Dusty said, you just don't question it. You follow what he says, and you know it's going to work. And even if he has no idea why he's just done something, it works. It works. And even like I think it was 2 weeks out, I sent him my morning pictures, and he sent me the diet for the next day, and then he said, send me some gym pictures today. I sent him some post-workout pictures, and he said, all right, I've changed my mind. He went from a usual 3,500 calorie day to a big 7,000 calorie refeed. So I said, just out of curiosity, what made you change your mind? He goes, at the time I was 249, and he said, because you're going to be 247 tomorrow, and I don't want that. So okay. So I went home and I told Leanne, and then I woke up 247.3. And I messaged Chris, was like, yep, you're right. And he literally, he saved me from probably getting on with another low day and digging in a bit too deep. Whereas I would have happily done 4 more low days.
Yep.
Felt like crap, lost strength in the gym, and just slowed the machine down and just pushed the body too far. So he did that all prep. He just it's crazy. I just can't. It blows my mind even after 11 years.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is something he does, Scott, and it always drives me nuts because anytime he'll say a number, it's correct. Like every time he'll tell me, oh, do this. Tomorrow you're going to wake up at X. Okay. And you wake up in the morning, and it's like after a while you just go step on the scale so you can laugh. You're like,
yeah.
How did you know what was going to happen beforehand?
Yeah, now, he did it. So this is a crazy one. 4 weeks out, I was 256, 255, 256. And I messaged Chris and I said, I'm still like 25 pounds above the Spain prep at this point. I was so much heavier. And he goes, yeah, you look it. And then he said, you're going to be 252 hard, like sliced. And this was 4 weeks out. I was like, nah, that's 3 pounds away.
Right.
And I've got way more to lose. Anyway, now that I'm ready to go, if anything, with depleted, I'm 250 now sliced. So I'd be 252 still hard.
Right.
And he nailed it from 4 weeks out. That was just, any other coach would say, yeah, a couple of pounds a week, we're going to lose another 6-8 pounds.
Yeah.
But not Chris.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he definitely has that view. Now, with that, what have you been able to take from Chris that you're doing with your clients, whether it's competitive clients or just, rec clients? What kind of things have you stolen? Because I know Ron and I have both robbed him blind of everything we've learned.
It's probably like 95% of what I do is off of what Chris has done. One thing I tend to find myself doing more and more is sitting and just waiting to see what another few days on the plan does.
Okay.
Instead of, there's been no change in 3 days. Instead of changing something, just say, let's just give it another couple of days.
Right.
And then another couple of days. And then find that a lot of the time, things just start moving.
Yeah.
The other thing I've used recently is Chris checks me in every day. I don't know if he was like that with you.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes more than once a day.
Well, yeah. So it used to be every 2 to 3 days. Well, I remember when I got with him last year, we had like 20 weeks, and he was doing every day. So, and then at one point, it was like 20 weeks out, I said, shall I check in every day still? It's like, I think twice a day might be too much at this point. So I thought, every day from 20 weeks out, I'm getting my money's worth there, but no, so I started to look at my own coaching and think, there's guys that I'm checking in once or twice and they're not really changing. So I started to do every other day. And then these guys, without changing the plan, they started to progress. I think because they knew, well, I've got a day or two, so I need to work. Whereas it's like, if I've got a week to check in with Sas, you don't, you might pump the brakes on for a day or two, a little bit, subconsciously. So that's something I've taken away. And the other thing was just, minimal supplements and just let's see what the body does with it. Health, I think a healthy, fresh body, rested body seems to give you more than a one that's just been smashed just to get heavy or strong. And it's okay to get soft in the off season.
Right. Yeah, that was probably a hard one for you to digest. You're always his version of soft, by the way, is not soft, for the record.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's be clear that soft to him is 9% body fat, but
exactly.
So with the preps this year, have you found what are some parts of the preps now that you're enjoying it more, now that you're more in the moment, that you've really cued in on, and is there things that you're kind of learning in this process? And I know I've essentially been a step-in dad for just a little longer than you now.
Yeah.
And I find that my life and the things that I learn become things I try to figure out how to teach so that they can learn them not when they're in their 30s, but maybe in their teens. Is there things that you're kind of catching along the way that you're passing on? Or hoping to as they get older, I should say. Your kids are so young.
There's stuff I've learned from prep or just in general?
Just in general, from your approach to prep, from doing what you love versus just doing and being in the moment and that stuff.
I think one thing is try not to second guess and overthink yourself too often. If you set yourself a goal, get it done. Even if you might not want to do it in the middle, just get the job done and then decide if you want to do it again or continue doing it. I think knowing that, having faith in the fact that you are working hard will pay off, instead of just sitting back and wondering what if I did it this way? Is there a quicker way to do this? Or just stop that and just do it. Switch that off almost and just get the task done, and then look back at it. Sit back and look back and reevaluate it, analyze it in that sense. Right. And that's something I would like to teach, or trying to teach, because mine are very young still. Right. The other thing is just being present and kind of just switching off the distractions. In the past, in preps without the kids, I would, in between meals, you're thinking about meals, or you're thinking about bodybuilding, you're thinking about training, or, and it can get a bit too much, especially when in prep you're hungry and you're tired and it's getting quite hard. Thinking about how hard it is, it can really put you off and it can make it worse.
Oh, dude.
Whereas with the kids, even if you haven't got the energy, you can sit there with them, watch something they're watching, play something they're playing, go out with them. I think there's ways you can fill in the gaps in time to make that day go a little bit easier and more positive, less stressful, which in turn always helps the end goal, I think. So, they've definitely made it. Probably why I haven't done any cardio is because of them. You don't really get a chance to sit down much.
Right.
I think the basics, going back to basics in life, simplicity, going for a walk, going out and playing physically, sitting together and reading, the stuff that people might not tend to do that much. Mm-hmm. Just kind of shutting off social media and the news and whatever else nonsense is going on, and just being with each other, I think is priceless. I think I would like them to be be there, as much as they can with their kids and family and that kind of thing. I think everything else falls in line if you've got the good relationships there all the time.
Yeah,
Going a bit deep there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good because that's kind of what I was looking at, because now, as an outsider, just from your description, you're a lot busier than you used to be. I mean, you were just prepping for shows. Your only job was to get ready for the show and focus on it. Whereas now, you've got a family, you've got, your work that needs to get done, your clients that depend on you. Their goals don't take a back seat to your goals, which means you have less time to just sit and overanalyze, like you said, and kind of, just sit there and drudge along stuff that really doesn't matter. I know Scott, when he first started was working a ridiculously busy physical job. And I'm sure, Scott, you can weigh in on that, but like, you don't have time to do those things because you're too busy.
My first prep, the company I worked for before I worked for the pop company, they were closing, and I knew it was happening, and it was happening during prep. So they're like, we're going to lay you off, so you can start looking for work. And I was like, no, man, I'm going to be in prep. I'm just going to live the dream. I'll collect the unemployment for a few months during the end of my prep, and then I'll look for a job after that. And oh my God, I thought I was going to be living the dream, and it was compared to the next time I prepped. So the next year I prepped, my girlfriend was dieting too. I was working at 7-Up, plus I had kind of like my night gig doing a Q&A online for bodybuilding stuff. So worried about her, so worried about getting my job done, plus I have all this other work to do online, that I realized it was her day for the show, and I realized, I'm like, why do people keep asking me if I'm doing the show today? They were asking me because I was like peeled inside out, and I realized my show's in 2 weeks. Like, my prep's already over. And I was in better shape. I had a better experience, and it was like I wasn't so self-focused. I was, concerned about other people and taking care of the things I need to do in life. The whole time you were saying that, Sas, that's exactly what I was thinking of, was the difference of those two preps. Sitting on my couch all day thinking about when I'm going to do my cardio, or like getting out and doing stuff, I'd much rather be busy.
Yeah. It's funny because before I stopped, I remember saying to Chris, it was when I thought, this is too much work for what I'm getting in return. So I said to Chris one day, I said, I want to have a family in the future. I want to have a business. And he turned around to me and said, you can have all of it and be a world-class bodybuilder. He said, you don't need to be a Dorian Yates that's 100%, taken over by the routine, which obviously he's on another level, but I wasn't going to be a Dorian Yates. So I wanted to have a family and a couple of businesses. But at the time when he said it, I said, no, I can't do that while prepping for a show. I can barely walk my dog 20 minutes a day, getting ready for a show. There's no chance. But then fast forward now, if I was to go back to my old self and say, you're going to have 2 kids, 2 boys under 5, you're going to have a thriving coaching business. You're going to have sponsors that you're going to have to work for every day, do stuff for. You're going to have a mortgage. You're going to, there's going to be people, you're going to obviously have a relationship. And I would have turned around and said, there's no way I would do a bodybuilding prep in that situation. No chance. But it's funny because you're right that you make it work. Like, I think knowing that I've got these plates to spin, it makes you excel, like more so than you ever thought you could. It's quite rewarding. And then when you do manage it, you just want to be able to keep going and doing more.
Well, do you find also that with all the plates going, you're more successful in all of them? Because you don't have the ability, like, you didn't know this, but like when you and I met, I still owned 5 stores. Yeah. So when I would leave the, like when we would go to FIBO, when you get done with FIBO, you go back, of course, the routine, you have a meal, you head to the gym, you come back, you eat a meal with the team, everyone goes to the room and goes to bed. I would go to the room and then work on my business for 4 hours and then say, okay, it's time for bed. I can sleep for 3, be up and at the breakfast table with everyone else in the morning. And it's kind of funny, but in hindsight, I'm in the opposite stance. I'm like, how the hell was I doing all of that?
Yeah.
But it's because
Yeah.
you had to be ridiculously organized. You know, I have a good friend that's just competed recently, and she's a pro and makes good money as a pro. But I'll laugh because I watch like the updates, and it's like laying on the couch and saying, "Oh, just trying to muster the energy to go do my cardio." And I'm thinking, when you're busy,
Yeah.
it's not about energy; it's about time. We do
Yeah.
cardio at 4:53 in the morning. That's when it gets done because it's the only time you have.
Yeah.
And then you eat your meals when they have to be eaten, and everything is just on a clock. And then you come home and it's 11 p.m. and you're like, "Oh, bedtime,"
Yeah.
and you do it all over again the next day.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that is an area that people don't understand. You can really thrive, and things feed each other, because then when you're at work, you're like, listen, I've got 27 check-ins today. I have to knock out 11 of them before my next meal.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I'm done with that, I got to do X amount before I do whatever else is on the schedule. And it really does lock you in to where you're more efficient and operating at a higher level. Because I'm sure your clients notice, like, okay, he's, a week out, and I just sent my check in 45 minutes ago and he answered.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember being on the runway of the airport on the plane, about to leave, and I was using the last bit of internet to knock these emails out.
Yeah.
And people next to me were just watching, like they're all waiting, and then I found out I could pay for a little bit of Wi-Fi on the plane, so I paid, and I was doing emails in the air, which I found was pretty crazy.
Totally worth it.
Oh yeah.
On the way back, the Wi-Fi wasn't strong, so again we were landing, and we had a lot of time between landing and coming off, and I was like, right, how many emails can I do now?
Yeah.
It was just, even from weeks before, I was thinking, am I going to be at the airport? How long? I had a layover in Paris. All right, I've got an hour and a half there to do some work, and it's crazy because it felt normal to me.
Yep.
Whereas when I was on the plane and there were people napping next to me, waiting to get off, falling asleep, and I was thinking, yeah, that's not me right now, and I prefer it not to be, because I think when you stop, it slows down, and you slow down, and I can't fall off the treadmill because you've built this life. Like yourself, you've had so many businesses. When you slow the treadmill down, everything starts to crumble around you, and it can all really fall apart quite fast.
Oh yeah.
So it just pushes you to keep going. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about training. I don't know. Do you remember, Sas? We did a podcast together. It was like, I think 2016.
Yeah.
And at the time you had been training with Jordan. And so, and that's when Jordan was doing Muscle Minds with Scott and I. And we're like, we wanted to bring Sas on and talk about it. And I recall you were like, this training's not for me, which I think is a big thing to be able to say. I love Jordan, first of all, incredible dude, incredible training. But you sit in a room with him and tell him that you want to train in a different way than he trains. It's almost like when Jordan talks, it's almost like there's no other way to do it. That's the way it just feels to me. And to be able to like have the guts, Steve, and say like, I don't think this is for me. And that's what you did. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about how you figured out that heavy progressive overload of that style wasn't for you. And, talking to Alex from AW Muscle Fitness, he told me you've got some pretty unique training techniques and ideas of your own. So I'd love to hear what you do.
Unique, I guess, in the sense that they're not newly invented, but unique in the sense that I blend things together. I think. I guess I cross over different styles just to suit what my body needs at that moment in time. I think that's one thing I'm able to do now, is really tune in to what my body or that muscle group needs at that certain time on that day in the gym. But backtracking a bit, being able to say no was easy for me, because when I go back to when I first started weightlifting, I was 13. I bought a set of weights in my bedroom. Everyone's same story. But it was me and this set of weights and this poster I had that I copied, all the different exercises on it, and that was it. That was bodybuilding to me. Obviously, I started to see the physiques later on in the magazines and the movies, but for me, it was what was my mum cooking for me to eat, to be able to train in my room, to be able to try and get stronger and feel better. It was about feel. It was about enjoying it with no one watching. And I remember, like, a few months in, I went to school, and a couple of the lads were saying, you look like you've, bulked up a bit. And that was the first sense of achievement. And I was thinking, I did that. It was my training. It was in my room. Obviously learning off whatever I could find. So fast forward to trying different styles. Every time I went into a specifically strict style of training, firstly, I didn't like the fact that my free as a bird mentality in the gym was taken away from me because everything was set. That was just, I like to go in and I like to feel what I'm doing in the gym. Set plan, yeah, and then I want to be able to know I can adjust it. The other side was the passion and the feel. When I was doing progressive overload, which is, honestly, it's a great way to train, and I still use it, but when it was 100% push, pull, legs, aim for this number on this set, I felt like I was in prison, in training prison, and I had to do it this certain way. And if I hadn't covered all the variables over the last couple of weeks, and I didn't hit a lift, it would eat away at me, and it would start to kill that kind of passion and feel that I had from day one. And with bodybuilding, if I wasn't passionate about what I was doing, I didn't excel. Like, I didn't work hard. I didn't want to do it. Knowing that it's someone else's plan forced onto me, which it wasn't. It was my choice.
Sure.
It just took away that kind of, this is me. Like, I'm in control. And I think that disengages my mind and my instinct, of what my body's telling me, because I need to hit this number, regardless of how I feel. And the way I trained, and I had some niggles and injuries by that point, who doesn't? I wasn't in tune with that anymore. So I was sometimes doing a little bit of damage without thinking about it, because the adrenaline of getting a big set, adrenaline would just mask the pain.
Yeah.
It was a different mentality for me. So I think that I straight away I realized that it wasn't going to be beneficial for me, even if let's say I followed it and I got the biggest, the strongest I could have got. What's the point when I'm not passionate about it? To me, it wasn't making me loads of money at the time. It still doesn't, but so what's the point when you don't love it? When you don't love the fact that you're going to go to a gym and you don't love what you're about to do?
It took me a long time to figure that piece of it out, but that's the most important part of any training plan, isn't it? That number 100%. One, you enjoy doing it,
Yeah. Yep. You believe in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they all work, and then fast forward to today, someone asked me, are you high volume? Are you low volume? Are you push-pull legs? Are you bro? And I'll just say, look, I'm not against any of it, and I will use any of it at any time, any given time. If I want to go in and just do one set on everything, work up to one big set, which I have done in this last off season. I went for a couple of weeks where I just go in and build up to one all-out set because it just felt good.
Yeah,
right. It felt good. I felt strong. I felt like my body was enjoying it, and I was enjoying it. But then it comes a day where it's like, right, this isn't going to work today, so I'm going to back off and do pyramid up and do 3 work sets where I'm not going beyond failure. I'm going to stop and have a shorter rest period and go again. And then you're filling the muscle up in a different way, and it feels different. And then you see yourself different in the mirror, and you're kind of enjoying it in a different way. So I kind of just, majority of the time, I'm a little bit of a higher volume bro split. But like I said, I bring in all the different methods. I like to be able to use them all. It's like if you've got access to 10 supercars, a Ferrari, McLaren, Porsche, do you want to just drive one for 12 months? Not really. You want to be able to just go in and drive whichever one tickles your fancy that day. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's another thing I heard about you. You're a big car guy.
Yeah, big car guy. Oh, yeah. Sometimes I wish I wasn't.
What's more expensive, bodybuilding or cars?
The way that, my Mustang Bill would say the cars at the moment. It's never ending, but it's like I said, it's passion. So
do you find that having the external, like Ron is big on this, and actually I adopted it from him, but having the external passions that have nothing to do with bodybuilding helps round you out in a way that not only are you enjoying life more, but like you said, it sounds like enjoyment is the key motivator for you, the thing that makes you want to do things. Do you find that having those extra things kind of enhances bodybuilding as well?
Absolutely. I think they all work together. I think that if you're happy there and there, whatever you're doing outside of your body, whatever you're doing with your body and mind is just going to be done at a higher level, at a more productive level. You're going to enjoy it. With the cars, it was my first love before bodybuilding was cars. If I had the mind to be a mechanic, I'd probably be a mechanic.
Right.
But I was absolutely rubbish. I broke more things than I could.
That's what I was going to ask you. So, you don't do your own work
terrible
on your cars?
Yeah, I've tried. I've given up. I just pay other people to do it now.
Yeah.
But it's like my drive to the gym, my gym experience. The drive to the gym is a part of it for me.
Right.
Being able to just get in the car, hear that V8, put some music on. That starts to get me going. My son loves it. He loves the sound. I love just looking at the car. It's what makes you feel good. Like Dusty said, I had 3 words to describe myself that I look at life. I think one was happiness, one was convenience. I think one was comfortable. Comfortable, not in the way that I want to be comfortable. I like to push myself out of the comfort zone. But I don't like arguing. I don't like disagreements, confrontations. I like an easy kind of, a happy, low stress Sas does way better than everything he does.
With a V8 under the
hood. Money drives everyone, but for me, it's not like I wouldn't do whatever it takes to make $1 million kind of thing. I would go the right route. And it's saying like Chris, like if someone turned around to me and said, Sas, if you get with Hani Rambod, you will be second at the Olympia in 2025. No doubt. Like if someone said, you leave Chris now, go with Hani, and if you stay with Chris, you'll get 8th or you get last or whatever. And not that I'm just saying hypothetically.
Yeah. I
would stay with Chris because of the relationship and the way we are with each other and just the comfort, stress-free, easy work relationship, friendship I've got with him. I wouldn't let that go for, bigger checks or trophies. Not at this point in my life, anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So that means more to me.
So speaking of that, and this is something that we talk about a lot at my house, how do you define success?
That's a good question.
For you.
Success is being able to, obviously the financial freedom. So you're not worried about paying the mortgage or the bills. Financially being able to be comfortable, whatever that means to the person. But the other part of it is working a job that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, having family that you unconditionally love and would do anything for. And I know that sounds simple, but I don't think everyone is able to have that. And I know some people don't have a choice. But being able to go to sleep with minimal stress and just fall asleep happy, knowing that there's nobody after you, there's no, the tax man's not after you, you're not worrying about, I think it's hard to explain for me, but that's success. It's like happiness plus relationships plus enough wealth to be comfortable but not stressed. Because I know some people, I have a few millionaire friends here that I just don't think they'll ever be happy because it's just one problem after another.
Right.
And they've got all the money in the world, but they're constantly chasing something to make them happy.
Right.
You know, they're not happy. So, yeah, I hope that came across.
No, it's perfect because that's kind of what I in hindsight, like when I first started life, I'll say, I thought I was driven by money. I really did. I was like, I just want the money. Just pay me the money. And over time, I really learned that wasn't what drove me. I found a lot more happiness, like you said, in doing the things I was passionate about. And then the passion ended up turning those things into paydays.
Yeah.
Where, you know, if I took my skill set to a different arena, I would make more money and I would be less happy.
Yeah.
You know,
that's exactly it.
And I feel like when I look at you and kind of the growth that you've had, just in this conversation, even, it's cool to see. And I try to drive it home. You know, when you're meeting fans and stuff, when you see you'll have someone walk up to you, Sas, somewhere, and they've got their wife with them, their kid, or whatever it is, and they're thinking in their head like, man, what must it be like to be him, to have, you know, the celebrity. And in our sport, I mean, you are wildly popular. Everyone knows you. But I don't think that most people realize that the best part of your life, that family has.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't necessarily see that. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I've been going to the shows. I mean, this is my 19th Arnold this year.
Yeah.
And it's funny, as I'm getting ready to go to FIBO tomorrow, it's harder to leave home now than it used to be.
Absolutely.
And it's also more exciting to go home when it's over. Because as cool as it is, and I love going, I love the fans, I love hanging out with the boys and doing everything, but you're like, man, the thing that really makes me tick is actually at home.
100%. And you know what's funny is over the last couple of years, as my coaching business grew, people would turn around and say, you know, why do you charge more, or why do you do this online, and why don't you travel more? And I know there's coaches that might make twice as much as I'm making, but those coaches are also here, there, and everywhere all the time, or they're constantly on their laptop or their phone, literally 24/7. And I'm thinking, okay, so what's the point? What's the point in, you know, having all that money when all you do is you're glued to the screen? You don't have time to be there for your partner or your kids. I like how busy I am. Could I be busier? Yeah, of course I could. But I can't sit down after 7 p.m. once the kids are go to bed and enjoy a couple hours with Leanne. You know, I'll be having to, you know, answer emails. I will if I have to, but I can have the choice right now to not to. I can do my workload earlier. If I want to go and take the kids for lunch tomorrow afternoon, I can move around my work. But if I was busier and making twice as much, even 50% more than I'm making now, I wouldn't be able to have that liberty. So what's the point? What's the point when you can't make those little memories along the way? Traveling kills me because I hate being away from the kids. They're constantly changing. But I also remember that this is for them as well. And it's also for my own happiness. It's my dream to be able to compete, try and get to Olympia. So it's a good trade-off. But if I was having to do that all the time, just sat there making money 24/7, 365 days a year, that number didn't make sense to me right now.
But it's right.
But I just wouldn't be happy. And then I think that would have a knock-on effect down the line somewhere. In some way, it'll have side effects.
You know, one thing I have to request as a friend and a fan is I'm going to need you to erase the "if I can get to the Olympia" statement. Because I told you a long time ago when you were going to go pro, I was like, well, you'll do that next year. And it's the same with the Olympia. And that's as a fan that's watched the sport as long or longer than you. There's certain people that just have it. And you've always had it genetically. But I think now with the maturity you went through, the growth, the time away, it's really time for you to just understand that that's going to happen. And, you know, it's not a matter of if, it's when. And, you know, anybody who goes to a show that you're in knows that you could win it. And, you know, I really do think that if you can alter those words inside of yourself for a little while, the seconds are going to become first because it's predetermined. You know what I mean? Like when Jay was coming up and took last at the Olympia, I don't think he ever wondered if he could do it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what separated him. And you have all the pieces. You've got the perfect foundation, I'll say, between the family, the things that drive you, all that. It's like, you know, for me, I look forward to you remembering this conversation because the Olympia qualification is going to come and you're not going to be attending the Olympia to attend. You're going to be going to the Olympia to do damage. And I think that you need to know that because I speak for all the fans. We want to see you there. I mean, Scott will tell you, I don't know how much you watch our show, but after last year's Olympia, I was really disappointed because a lot of the guys didn't put the effort into the show. And I'm just a fan now. I go the same as everyone else. I'm sitting there just watching, and I was like, that was a disappointment.
Right.
Because the classic guys put on a show, and the bodybuilders, it seemed like a afterthought. And this is the biggest show there is. Now, fast forward to the Arnold, a lot of guys put on a show. Yeah. But Scott shared your posing, and I was like, I could have muted it and felt it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the part that, as a fan, you want to have where, like, I'm having my own experience watching you perform. And I think that that's something that you have that you got to just climb in on because it is so much fun as a fan because you're watching and you're like, I've never seen this before. Even if you've done it, because there's an energy that's coming out of the routine. There's an emotion in a physical thing that we all gather, and Scott and I can watch the exact same routine, but it applies differently to us. You know what I mean? So you've got that thing that's why the fans were going nuts, because when you came out and you were feeling it, they started to have their own feeling towards it and kind of gave it back to you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's funny you saying these things. Up until the show I just did, I was of that if I get to the Olympia. And I know I said it today, but I think it was from a few days before Detroit. I was driving and I just felt like someone gave me some ecstasy. You know, like I was listening to music, thinking about my posing, and I just got this buzz inside. And I was like, and I like to stay quite mellow going into a show. I don't want to get excited. I don't buy into the hype. I was getting excited, and then the same thing kept happening every time I listened to my posing music. And in the hotel, after prejudging, I was practicing a bit of my routine, and I was just ready to explode, and I've never, ever felt that before. So something definitely happened in those 6 years, me just realizing what I am capable of doing on stage, what I can do with my physique. Before, I don't think I had that belief. Like, deep down, I knew I was good. I knew I had the potential, but I don't think I 100% believed it. And that's the difference. This time, I 100% believe it. My confidence has been sky high, and I was ready to put on a show, which I've never felt. And I think on stage, it just felt natural. And I remember Samson coming up to me after prejudging, and he just gave me a big hug, and he just said, "Shit, you just put on a fucking show." Like, well, like he was buzzing. Like you could tell he was passionate about what he just saw. Yeah. So I agree with you. I think something has changed, and I know I'll be at the Olympia, and I'm going to love putting on a show and bringing that kind of the polish and the posing and the attitude that I've grown up watching from my favorite pros, and I can't wait to kind of just bring that to the Olympia stage. And
it's going to be cool because, you know, when we watch these, there's no one like you. And that's exciting as a fan. Like when you look, like when we talk on the show, we're like, well, you got Samson, you got Andrew, and you go through the list of guys that are similar. Yeah. And then you come down and you're into the Derek and Nick Walkers, and then there's you. And there's no one like you, not just physically, but how you approach it. You know, like you said, I mean, you essentially, especially nowadays, and this is where I feel bad for kids these days, they get on the internet and there's a rule book now.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you got to train this way or you got to train that way and you got to eat this and you got, you know, all these rules. And I hope that you get out enough and get on more podcasts and stuff, because you were handed all the rules and you looked at them and you crumpled them up and you tossed them over your shoulder. You're like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it my way. And I think that more people will get something from you, because I think there's a lot of people trapped in the box that they are told to be in.
Yeah.
That when they see a guy like you who chucked the rules and had massive success, not just with the result, but also with enjoying the process.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that a lot of young guys and girls coming up go, I just want to do this for me. You know, it's like when you started building your physique, you didn't say like, what do the judges want? What do I want?
Yeah.
And I feel like that shows in your physique, and it's why you have such I mean, it's just a different look. Like when you came out on stage for Detroit, I was like, okay, that is wildly different. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of a lot of those guys, but you stood out in how you carried yourself and what your physique looked like. And it was exciting knowing that, like I said, I mean, I've never been a rule follower. So seeing you chuck it and just roll with it, I hope more guys hear your message and understand that they will get further doing what they enjoy than following my rules, Scott's rules, whoever's rules.
Well,
That's
that
really
and
cool.
I think the other aspect is the fact that you can have it all. You know, that's the real thing I hope some people walk away with, because that's a conversation I have with people, you know, not all the time, but it is a conversation that you do have with people where they're like, you know, me or the family, you know, bodybuilding, or that, you know, a big thing you said too was that, you know, part of it is doing this for them. Part of it is like you're doing this as a business for your family, but you also said an important thing. Part of it is for you, you know, because you really do have to be happy first. If you were to, you know, if you didn't follow your dreams, then what are we? And it doesn't mean that it has to take away. And I don't care whether you're Sasan Heirati or you're just trying to prepare for the Michigan State, you know, championships. It's like, if this is your calling in your heart, that's what you want to do, you really can have both. You can have it all. You know, you really can. And be 100% plugged in for both too, you know? And you're proving that.
I agree. It almost, it all has to come together for it to be. Like, I used to watch bodybuilders who would lock themselves away from their kids, you know, because they're hungry, they don't want to get snappy. It's like, okay, why don't you sit down with your kids and have a good time? Like, that'll take your mind off being hungry and tired.
Yeah.
You know, it's, why'd you have to go lock yourself away like fight camp? You know, we're bodybuilders. We're not, you know, we're not fighters. And once I realized I can do that, the family didn't become a burden. It became a boost,
a strength
to get me through the day, to my next meal, to the next training session. And then throw in the Mustang. That's my little win for the day. Get there. That's like happy hormones. And like Dusty said, once you throw out these restrictive, or at least say, okay, I don't need to follow this, but I can if I want to.
Yeah.
You intend to do something that you enjoy with your training. And when the enjoyment comes in, everything else just falls into place. Like, it's like one big circle. Everything I say to my guys, they want to do their first prep. Okay, so is everything okay? Are you all right? You know, are you in a good place with your job or with your relationship? You know, if you've got issues at home, maybe doing a contest prep isn't the best for you. And, you know, everything has to almost be in line for it to be a well-oiled machine with a good outcome. And like Dusty said, I definitely, one of the things I wanted to get out of this comeback was to be able to give back to bodybuilding, because it's given me so much. It's given me almost everything I've got today. So I would like to give back to the younger generation and just say, you know, you can do this, you can stay relatively healthy, you can pick your shows, you can pick the way you train, and you can do it whilst having fun. And you don't need to throw all your eggs in one basket. You don't need to throw your career away to do it.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to say there's more ways to train and eat. There's, you can always make something work when it comes to bodybuilding because it's a lifestyle. I would love to be able to give more information out and my own experiences. So I've said no. I've said no to podcasts in the past, but my attitude now is say yes to every podcast. Yep. So I've got Chris Tuttle and Milos tomorrow.
Nice.
I think Dennis James just DM'd me. I think he wants me on his podcast. So the old Sas would have been like, oh no, I'm traveling, I'm prepping, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but I'm going to fit it in whenever I can.
Nice.
Just to get my voice out there.
Well, you're welcome here on this show or any other show anytime you want to come on, man. We're more than happy to have you.
Thank you. I'd love to come on after FIBO and talk about the win.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that idea.
Well, I want to, before we end, because I know we've already stolen an hour of your time, I just want to point out one thing that I think is huge that you're doing. Number one, the more you chase your goals, personal, just for you, the bigger your reach gets. Yeah. The more people you can impact. And then the other thing, and I stole this from Evan Centopani years ago because I thought it was so important, when he was having kids. All parents tell their kids, you can be anything you want to be. Yeah. But I think the problem is that's only heard if you're being what you want to be. So when your kids grow up and you say, hey, you can do whatever you want, and they look at your life, they'll go, my dad did what he wanted.
Yeah.
And it all worked out. Yeah. But it doesn't come out as well when your kid looks and goes, well, you hate your life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think that you're on a path to impact way more than you probably ever realized you would, obviously within your own house. And I've always been a huge fan and friend, and I'm super stoked to see this weekend. I love knowing that I've just got one more reason to brag on Scott that I'm going FIBO to watch you on stage, and we really appreciate you joining us, man.
Thank you. Honestly, I can't thank Dusty enough for giving me a massive leg up on this career from the start, and I can't thank you guys enough for the kind words and obviously the support. And having me on the show as well. So I know I will do well this weekend in Spain, and I'll have some successful topics to talk about next time.
Hell yeah,
sounds good, man.
Next time. So thank you guys for having me. It's been a pleasure. Even though I'm 5 days out, it's been more fun than ever, to be honest.
We just wanted to get you closer to that next meal, buddy.
Right?
Yeah, and you're pushing those meals together later on, which is always a good thing.
Guys, if you're not following Sas, we've got his Instagram and everything down below. So, of course, remember that. Remember, I Am Mutant. You can go to I Am Mutant and use codes Big, Ron, or Dusty to get some savings. And, of course, we've got to remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
Ring the bell. And Sas, I still have that poster. So if you need any good new exercises, you let me know, man. I still got that gym poster here. So anytime you need them, man, let me know, bro. I'll hook you up. I do the same thing, though. I have it hanging here in my office to remind me, where I came from and where it started. And I love your story, man. I appreciate having you here. And I'm sure the audience is going to enjoy this, guys. Of course, comment. Tell us what you think. What did you think about the Sas interview?
That's right. And obviously add all your questions below so we can steal them for the next episode, because we will have him on after he grabs that Olympia qualification this week.
Yes, sir. Thank
you. And for another episode of It's Just Bodybuilding? No, wait. Is that how it goes? No, he says, and remember. That's what he says. And remember, Dusty, it's just bodybuilding.
That's it. Yeah.